Welcome to the Valareso Capital community, where we discuss the stock market and trading strategies to become a consistently profitable trader and investor. Hey traders, welcome back to Valareso Capital. On today's video, we're going to go through the weekly watch list and we're also going to take a look at the market. Remember guys that these videos for informational purposes only, is based just on my personal opinion and is not financial advice. And before we start with the video guys, I just want to wish you a Merry Christmas and I hope that you had an amazing time with your loved ones. So let's just jump into the charts. It has been a pretty crazy month, not the same as November, but we're starting to see some very interesting price action that suggests the likelihood that we're going to continue to see a little bit more of a melt up into the end of the year and perhaps into the first couple of weeks of January. So let's start here with the chart. I'm going to start with the chart of Bitcoin. And the reason that I want to start with the chart of Bitcoin is because I tend to see that when we get these speculative rallies, we tend to see Bitcoin lead the way to the upside. So first of all, we can see that Bitcoin is starting to form a really nice pattern here, right? We're starting to see this kind of a little double bottom, and now we're starting to see that handle. Now, I do think that if we happen to see a little bit more upside in Bitcoin, this is most likely gonna be the end of this rally in Bitcoin that we have seen, right? If we just zoom out here a little bit, we can see that we had an amazing rally of Bitcoin going all the way from 25,000 all the way to 45,000. So that's an incredible rally. And one of the reasons that I'm starting to say that we're probably going to be in the last innings of this rally is because momentum is starting to lag a little bit. So you can see right here that when my indicator is above that EMA, we tend to see really smooth moves to the upside in Bitcoin, right? Like the moves that we have seen. But once we start to see that my momentum line, which is this blue line here, starts to interact a little bit too much with that EMA, we start to see a little bit, that is the first suggestion that we're going to start to see a little bit of chop. And we can just go to previous instances when that happened, and you can see that every time that we have, when my momentum line is below that EMA, we tend to see a little bit of downside, or we just tend to see a little bit of chop until that line gets above that EMA, and then we start to see a little bit of more momentum and a little bit of more trending price action in the asset that we're looking at. So that's one of the reasons that I do believe that Bitcoin might be in the last moments of this rally, but of course things can change. We can get new information, and then of course the momentum indicator will adapt to that price action, because price action is the most important thing. So right here, you can see that Bitcoin is holding this anchor VWAP zone, that we are also trading above that anchor VWAP from the swing high. So that's pretty constructive action. I don't see any reason. You can see that how amazing that anchor VWAP is holding as support, and I don't see any reason why Bitcoin wouldn't test this 48,000 level. So Bitcoin is looking pretty good. You can also see that we have a squeeze, which is also constructive. Now let's jump into the charts that we tend to look at, and that's going to be the SPX. So let's take a look at the SPX here. And we were in the last video in the video that we made last week, we were talking about the possibility of seeing a pullback in the market, right? And we were talking about the possibility of that pullback being a buying opportunity for a Santa rally. And that's exactly what we got, right? You can see right here that in the SPX, we got this move all the way to 4,775, I think. Let me just check a little bit here. The high was 4,078. So that was the top that we saw in the market, and then we had this quick move to the downside. But basically what we did is test that 8 exponential moving average, and of course if we anchor a VWAP from that breakout, you can see that anchor VWAP zone is also holding the price. So we got that quick pullback to the 8 exponential moving average. Buyers instantly step to buy this rally, and now you can see that we're holding that anchor VWAP from the swing high. So if we just base the assumption that price is leading here, then price suggests that we're going to continue to melt to the upside, right? We have this huge 44,800 level. So most likely we're just going to touch it, give it a kiss. Perhaps we're going to continue to the upside. Or maybe we're going to chop a little bit in this box, right? You can see that we also had a box right here, and then we had a huge breakout. So anything can happen, right? Are we going to see a little bit of chop right here and then a breakout? Perhaps, or we're probably just going to see a break to the upside. So that's looking pretty constructive on the SPX. There's no need to think that this is going to fail, right? You can see that we have very clean momentum on my indicator, and we are also above the moving averages, right? The 21 exponential moving average is all the way down here. We have the 13 and the 8. As long as we keep trending above those moving averages, there's no reason to think that this rally is going to end, right? If we compare it to the last time, right, we had this huge rally here to the upside. This rally ended the moment we lost that 30 daily moving average, which is kind of the last line of support right here. So as long as we continue to trend above these moving averages, there's literally no reason to try to call for a top, because we can just continue to melt to the upside, and that's kind of the thesis that we're building for next week, that we're just gonna continue to see a melt up in the SPX. So this one is looking pretty constructive. And if we want to take a look at the NYC composite, you can see that the NYC composite is basically just breaking out from a huge cup and handle, right? You can see here the cup, you can see here the handle, we had the breakout, and now we're seeing some consolidation above that handle before testing that 8 exponential moving average. So this one is also suggesting that we're also going to continue to see more upside. So I don't see any red flags into thinking that the market has stopped, at least not yet. So that one is looking pretty constructive. So let's jump into and also let me show you the UVXY here. Love taking a look at the UVXY, and you can see that the UVXY, we had this pop, right? You can see that we had this mini base right here. Let me just make the price action a little bit bigger. You can see that here that we had this mini base right here. We pop above that mini base, and we just basically came all the way to the moving averages, right? We came right here into this 30 daily moving average, and we got rejected. Price action is suggesting that we're going to continue to see more upside. Perhaps the UVXY is just going to chop here and then change its trend. But for now, the moving averages, and if you are a trend follower, this is telling us, hey, we're probably going to continue to see more upside in the market, and volatility is also suggesting that. So let's jump into what is going to be the focus list for next week. So in many of these names, I do have positions. I actually have positions in all of these names. The way that I'm trading the SPX is via the UPRO, which is a 3x leverage ETF, and the way that I'm trading the Qs is the TQQQ, which is also a 3x leverage ETF. So we already talked about the SPX, looking pretty awesome. The first target is going to be somewhere around 48,000. I do think that we're most likely going to continue higher, but this one is looking pretty awesome. If we take a look at the Qs, you can also see here that we had this pullback right into that 8 exponential moving average and that anchor VWAP zone from the breakout, right? You can see right here that we had this breakout, and that anchor VWAP zone from that breakout is holding. And this one is just looking pretty amazing, right? All-time highs are right here at 408.71. And I don't see a reason why this cannot continue to melt to the upside, perhaps into this 415 level that we had in the QQQ. So this one is looking pretty awesome. I wouldn't short this, right? This is just trend following. We broke up, we test that exponential, and then perhaps we're just gonna see continuation to the upside. This is looking pretty clean in my opinion. Let's take a look at Microsoft, which is also looking fantastic. I actually got my position. You can see here that I do have my position and I have my stop. My stop is at 364, and my position, I opened my position at an average of 374.26. What I'm looking here in Microsoft is if we can break above this downtrend line. If we happen to break above that downtrend line, perhaps we're going to test it again. But then I do think that we're going to continue to make all-time highs. You can see right here that we have a squeeze, and here is a perfect example of why do I think that Bitcoin is. Remember that we were talking about Bitcoin before talking into the watch list. Remember that we were talking about the momentum indicator. You can see right here that Microsoft is also is also kind of trending, is a kind of chopping between this moving average right here. So that's one suggestion of why we tend to see this chop as soon as my momentum indicator is below that moving average. Is actually pretty interesting. But going back to the chart, this chart is looking awesome. We hold this anchor VWAP zone. If we anchor another zone here, you can see that we're holding it. This one is looking awesome. First target is going to be this level of 344. And then I do think that we're going to make all-time highs here in Microsoft. It's looking fantastic. Let's take a look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA is looking great. And I do think that we mentioned NVIDIA last week. And the first thing that, if you only look at one thing here, is that the previous instances when we had this sell-off to the downside, we didn't respect the 50 daily moving average. This time we did. That's a huge change of character. That's a beautiful representation of how buyers are stepping in to support the price, and that's a beautiful representation of what a BCP is. A BCP is basically just a volatility contraction in price, and that's basically telling us that buyers are stepping at higher prices. And as soon as buyers are stepping at higher prices, that means that sellers are losing the control, and then we are most likely going to see a breakout. So that's exactly what we're seeing in NVIDIA. It's pretty awesome, it's pretty amazing, and if you are a student of the anchor VWAP, you can see that we're holding that anchor VWAP from the swing high. That also suggests that buyers are in control, so I don't see any reason why NVIDIA is not going to test this 520 level right here. You can also see that I do have a position. My average is the blue color here, my stop is the red color right here. So this one is looking also pretty amazing. We do have a squeeze, and I'm looking for a continuation in NVIDIA and finally a break above 500, which is going to be pretty amazing. Let's take a look at Apple, and you can see that I have a lot of mega caps. I love trading the mega caps. I find them pretty easy to trade, and most of the time they follow the price action pretty beautifully. So this one is looking also amazing. Apple, another beautiful cup and handle. You can see right here that we're testing this 21 exponential. That's one of the best places to get some exposure, right? We're testing the 21 exponential. You can see my average price, my stop, and then I'm looking for a move to new all-time highs in Apple. I don't see where we are not gonna get it. You can see right here that the target is gonna be somewhere above 200. I'm using Fibonacci. So if you're asking how do I find these zones right here, I'm just using Fibonacci. There's gonna be anchor. This is gonna be measured from this swing high here to this swing low here, and that's how I get my target zones right here. So that's gonna look for Apple, which is also looking great, and that's basically gonna be all the names that I'm watching. I do have other names, right, like Amazon and Netflix. Amazon kind of already took off, so let me just show you pretty quickly, right? We had this base, we had the breakout, and now we're flagging again. So Amazon is also a candidate for a long. Netflix, let's take a quick look at AMD. AMD is also, this is the first test of that 8 exponential after this breakout. So we're basically just forming a mini base right here. If we happen to break out, I do think that AMD is just going to continue to the upside, and then you can check the other names on your own. I don't want to make this video too long. So once again, guys, I do think that the market is going to continue higher. I do think that the SPX is going to continue to move. Most likely we're going to continue to move above that 4,800 level. Market is looking pretty bullish, and I'm just gonna continue to play it that way, just following the trend until we lose the moving averages. So once again, thank you so much, guys, for watching the video. I hope that you have an amazing day today, and we're gonna be back here next week for another update. So thank you so much, guys. Take care, and bye bye.